These aren't the droids you're looking for. A simple phrase, a subtle gesture, and suddenly an entire path changes. But what if that Jedi mind trick wasn't a clever tactic, but a moral failure? What if using the Force to bend another's will, even for peace, is no different than wielding the dark side? From A New Hope to the Clone Wars, Jedi across generations have relied on a controversial skill, the mind trick, a subtle application of the Force to influence thought and behavior. The technique appears harmless, even noble, when compared to the violence it can prevent. Yet beneath its clean surface lies an uncomfortable truth. The Jedi Code, in its earliest form, forbade aggression, deception, and domination of others. And yet, here they were, using the Force to override the will of another sentient being. Is it truly peacekeeping if it violates free will? Jedi Masters such as Obi-Wan Kenobi, Ki-Adi-Mundi, and even Yoda used the ability sparingly, and often with the intent to avoid harm. But sparing use doesn't mean ethical use. So was this just another tool in the Jedi arsenal, like the lightsaber or the Force push, or something more insidious? Influence is not control, it is intervention. Those who defend the Jedi mind trick argue that it is a non-lethal, non-invasive, and often life-saving technique. In A New Hope, Obi-Wan uses it, not to harm, but to avoid bloodshed. The alternative? A blaster fight with innocent conscripts. That's not mercy, that's wisdom. You don't need to see his identification. Instead of, we'll have to kill these troopers to get through. Supporters of the ability often cite the utilitarian framework, the greatest good for the greatest number. In wartime, when the Jedi were forced into military leadership, such tactics were allowed for efficiency, stealth, and minimal civilian casualties. Even the Jedi High Council did not prohibit the use of influence when confronting crime syndicates, slavers, or warlords. The power was often targeted at those actively committing injustice. Would it be more unethical to fail to act when the mind trick could have prevented suffering? In Legends, a Jedi Master once said, "If a little nudge in the Force can stop a man from killing an innocent, I'll nudge away." In this light, the mind trick becomes an ethical shield, not a sword, a means of ensuring peace without the trauma of violence. But defenders of the technique often stop short of addressing the deeper question: does preventing evil justify becoming the manipulator? If you're enjoying this debate on the ethics of the Force, make sure to like, subscribe, and ring that bell so you don't miss our weekly Star Wars debate videos. Now back to the action. Control is the path of the Sith. Opponents of Jedi mind influence offer a stark counterpoint. To manipulate another's mind is to walk the path of domination. The Sith openly use the Force for control, to twist minds, enforce obedience, and eliminate dissent. Is the Jedi mind trick not simply a more polished version of the same coercion? The difference is not in method, but in branding. The Jedi preach that all beings are connected through the Force. Each sentient soul has its own will, a fragment of the larger will of the Force. To override that will, to silence someone's consciousness in the name of order, is to reject the very balance the Jedi claim to protect. Even Qui-Gon Jinn, a maverick who followed the living Force, only used the ability sparingly. When Watto resisted the trick, Qui-Gon accepted it, instead of doubling down with pressure. The Force can influence the weak-minded. But what defines weakness? Intelligence? Willpower? Social standing? The implication is troubling, that Jedi may use this ability on those deemed mentally inferior or less powerful. And here lies the core ethical rot. If the Jedi believe in equality through the Force, how can they justify overriding another mind simply because they can? If the Jedi truly follow the Force, they must trust it, not manipulate others to achieve their goals. The question may not be, should Jedi use the mind trick, but rather, when does guidance become coercion? When does influence become control? Like many Force powers, the morality of the mind trick depends not only on intent, but on impact. If it saves lives without lasting harm, some argue it is akin to persuasion or diplomacy. But there is danger in its invisible nature. Unlike a lightsaber, its damage leaves no wound. Victims may not even know they were manipulated. And that is what makes it so dangerously seductive. As Jedi General Plo Koon once warned in Legends, the danger of the dark side is not in hatred alone. It is in control. Control over self. Control over others. The mind trick, when overused, risks becoming a gateway, not to the dark side in the dramatic sense, but to the gradual erosion of Jedi principles. So here's where I stand. The Jedi mind trick may be less violent than a weapon, but it is far more insidious, because it works quietly, it justifies itself easily, and it targets the very thing that connects all living beings: consciousness and free will. If Jedi were truly committed to following the Force's will, then trusting in natural choices, not bending them, should be their path. A Jedi must lead through wisdom and presence, not programming. To me, the Force isn't a tool to override others. It's a current to follow. When a Jedi uses a mind trick, they may think they are saving lives, but they risk becoming something else, arbiters of who deserves autonomy and who doesn't. And that, no matter how well intentioned, is a power no Jedi should hold lightly. What do you think? Is the Jedi mind trick a necessary defense against chaos? Or is it a subtle corruption that brings the Jedi closer to the very darkness they oppose? Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. Next week, we are diving into the debate of whether the Jedi should have been generals in the Clone Wars. You won't want to miss it. If you are enjoying the videos, become a member and let's uncover the galaxy's biggest secrets together.